Hello everybody, welcome to the discussion video about the version 5 tier list for Project Plus. This is for version 3.0.5 that came out just before Warehouse Wars last year and has been the same version since then. And finally they put together a tier list with a bunch of people, and we're going to talk about it. Because now there's a lot of different opinions about the list coming from all corners right now. A lot of experienced players have their opinion, a lot of people who haven't been playing for a very long time have their opinion, and people who maybe dabble a little bit also, or maybe know about it but haven't even played it, have their opinions, which is interesting. So we're going to actually talk about what the meta is, why it says what it says, different things like that, and go over everything. We're going to go over from top to bottom. We're going to talk about the previous tier list that came out, give some context to everything in regards to this list as well as the current one, go over big changes to different character placements and all of that. And then at the end, I will show my tier list that I made that contributed to the community list and give you kind of my takes on everything, because right now we're just going to kind of go over what's going on with the whole list, and then we'll get into mine if anyone gives a shit. So here we go. First things first, though, I do want to bring up that in PM or P+, the game is extremely balanced. To a point where a lot of people coming from other games, it's hard to grasp that. You know, you see if you played pretty much any other Smash game for the most part, if you see characters down in where Luigi and Samus and they are down there, you're gonna think they're terrible, and that just is not the case. There is top level players in the top 10 to 20 range for all three of those characters at the bottom, actually. Michael, Flarp, and Morse Code, respectively. There are obviously more than those with, I don't want to, discount any other mains of those characters, but those are the main ones you can look at that are top 20 and get top 20 results on all three of those characters, and pretty much everyone across the board has shown to get results at one point or another. So, and the top tiers are extremely, extremely good, and we will be making emphasis on that, so keep that in mind, but also that I don't want to overemphasize their strength to the point that they invalidate anybody. They are very strong and they're up there for a reason. But this game is very balanced, and I just want to make that clear that even the bottom characters down there will continue to get results and be successful. So it doesn't mean they're unplayable or anything, even though in other games, in other Smash games, it might that context from those other games will make you think that. That is not the case for this game. So going into that now, I'm going to discuss everything from that perspective. So, as a PM player, I may exaggerate things and make it sound maybe better or worse than it is, because in the context of the game it can be, but it's all at a smaller scale, if that makes sense. There's a lot of tiers, and people have their complaints about the fact that there should be less tiers overall to make it look closer, and my tier list kind of attempts to do that, but regardless, let's get into it. We're going to start at the top, because it's really easy to start at the top with Lucario. We're going to zoom in a little bit. Lucario, now he was not number 1 on my list, but he was number 2. I have him in that category, and once again, it will be clear my opinion on it later, but a lot of people were confused about this, and maybe it was because, Lucario was here in this list right here in the A tier, so they don't understand how he went from, around the bottom of top 10 to here, right? Here's the first thing to note. A lot of people thought he either was or going to be the best character when this tier list came out. Saying Lucario was either top 5 or even top 1 in the game when this tier list came out was not an unreasonable or unheard of opinion. So this did not come out of nowhere, and this did not spring up from, or was surprising to anybody. Lucario being top 1 is just a result of that thought process being, slowly being seen more and more. This character has, similar to like Melee Fox, has one of the highest skill ceilings in the game that you can push. The combo game is insane that no other character even has access to with his Magic series, with his aura mechanics, with all of that. And on top of having all of that, he has some of the best frame data in the game. He has extremely good range. His moves, with what they look like visually, you would be surprised what they look like on Rukai data, is all I'm going to say. Go look at Rukai data or Lucario hitboxes if you want to see what I mean. He's got some ridiculous hitboxes, and on top of that, he can cancel all of them on hit, regardless of if it's on hit or shield. He's not even that bad on whiff a lot of the time. He's got a great recovery with and without resources. He has things that can make his recovery pretty good. And he's got one of the most devastating punish games in the entire game. He's just been pushed to his logical conclusion, and it is not a surprising opinion for anybody at the upper echelon of this game that Lucario is number 1. Metanite, on the other hand, is kind of somebody everybody figured would be here. He somehow avoided the heavy nerf hammer. He got a lot of changes in 3.0.5, but none of them were very massive. They definitely hurt him a little bit, but they were not that big of a deal. One of those changes, to just name one off the top of the head, would be the Nair change. They made it from frame 3 to frame 4. It was such a nothing burger change even back when they originally made it in one of the earlier patches that got rolled back. And the only reason they rolled it back wasn't because it was a huge nerf, but because the Meta Knights didn't like that. It felt bad. So the whole avoiding that wasn't even whether it was too good or too bad. It just didn't feel very good according to a bunch of Meta Knight players. So at this point, they finally buckled down and made the change, and he's totally fine. He still has cape confirms across basically the entire cast. He's still extremely fast, has great pokes, has some of the best edge guarding in the game. Great tech chase setup that would just grab a down throw, and you have a great tech chase setup right off that. Teleport knee with cape is just good to throw. Really, really strong to throw out in different circumstances, just kind of whenever. He's great movement. He's got multiple jumps, great recovery, obviously. Right? He just doesn't have a ton of weaknesses, really. To speak of. He's a little tricky to play. So is Lucario. Both of them are pretty tough to learn, and they take some time to get down. But they're extremely strong, and nobody's surprised Meta Knight is up there, really. Whether you play the game or not, Meta Knight's kind of a mainstay in the top tiers of this game, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Now, to kind of encompass the S tier with Sheik and Falcon alone, they've been up in this area for a while. With Falcon and Sheik both being in that A+ tier in the last one. They've just kind of separated themselves a little bit. A lot of good Falcons have been going around doing well. Oh, really? Chalupi, Fury the last couple tournaments, right? At the Big Louisiana tournament and at the California one. I'm forgetting the name. Exodus, sorry. The Genesis one, Exodus. So he's done really well there. Pretty much solo Falcon. Obviously, Chalupi, mostly Falcon, and Oh, really? All Falcon. They've been doing extremely, extremely well. And he's just been a mainstay at every single level of play, mid, low, and high. He's been really strong. He's just so solid against the weight classes that are dominant in this game, those semi-floaties and full floaties and bigger bodies, like, bigger, fatter characters that dominate a lot of the playing characters in this game, that he just absolutely goes to town. There was a fear when the stack stun change came in, which took away his Nair grab guaranteed combos, and things like that he would be hurt by that. And basically that was his biggest nerf of everything, in my opinion. But he has obviously been fine. It's not been a big deal. He's still extremely reliable. Obviously one of the best punish games in the entire game, especially off grab. He can down throw, up throw, knee, base almost the entire cast at his sweet spot percentages, or for just a long time in general. He's just extremely good. And the cast that is around him, he typically does well into. The characters that do well against him, Meta Knight he can kind of struggle with, but his punish game is ridiculous against Meta Knight. So it's really like Meta Knight. The Spaceys still give him a hard time compared to the rest of the cast. And there's some other tricky ones that he can have a problem with. But for the most part, he just doesn't run into those characters all that much, and he can kind of run wild. Same goes for Sheik. Sheik has been obviously really good for a long time. Also an A, like a top 10 character in the last PM tier list as well. She's also just been a mainstay at every level of play. She's also reliable. Basically, a lot of the same reasons that Falcon is good, Sheik is very good, just in terms of like reliability, speed, and you have so much knowledge to go off of and build your game plan with these characters because of their melee background as characters. So there's a lot to go on there. Obviously, once again, a lot of floatier characters dominate the roster, so her issue with kind of faster falling characters where you have to reaction tech chase to get those big punishes or go for reads is not as important. She can just go for her standard 50-50 down throw, back throw stuff, and it's fine, and she has no problem with that. So really, those two are kind of, really not too surprising there, especially with the representation of the cast. Now to the biggest tier in the tier list, and we're at pretty much the high tiers of the game. Every one of these can kind of rotate in and out of like who's top 5, who's that last spot in top 5, or even rotate into the top 5, multiple of them, depending on who you're talking to. And so you got the two sorties, Marth and Ike. Marth is Marth. He's very good. He's a character you do have to learn a lot of the matchups because, there's, you can't be a Marth in this game. It's like, I'm just going to play Marth in the Fox, right, and pick FD and whatever. You have to play Marth, and you have to learn. There's a lot of matchups to learn, a lot more than there was in Melee. And even though Marth is actually a better character than he was in his Melee version, just in a vacuum, there's a lot of weird matchups to learn, and a lot of them are not very easy. So he can be tricky, but obviously we've seen a lot of good Marth players, including myself, get results with him pretty much solo, and he is obviously very strong. He's totally fine. Now, the two Spaceys, I'll get to Ike after this. I'll just go through the list. Two Spaceys, Fox, the most reliable Spacey in the game, obviously, and then Wolf, who is the kind of most, maybe not most versatile. That would probably still go to Fox, but he has some of the, he's like got some of the best attributes of the three Spaceys. He's got probably the best recovery out of all three. Trickiest to edgeguard for sure out of all three of them, I would say. Just because of the speed of his up B startup time, it's a lot quicker than Fox and Falco's, and it goes almost as far, if it might go about the same range, or maybe a little shorter than Fox's. But he's still extremely reliable. Great juggle tool with up air. His Nair is great, leads into Shine. Multi-hitting Nair that leads into Shine is extremely good. He's really versatile. The laser took a big hit, and the back throw got completely gutted, basically. That is just not a throw anymore. His back throw used to be very good against floaties. It could either combo straight up, re-grab, or just up air strings out of it. Or he could even flash you out of back throw on certain DIs on certain characters. Now back throw is the one where he slides you along the ground and throws you. It's pretty much a nothing burger now. It doesn't really do anything for him. Looks kind of cool, but doesn't really get him anything. So he took some big hits for sure. But laser's still a good lockdown tool in neutral. It's just not good at basically full stage anymore. It's pretty much a mid-range thing now. So he has to be a little more committal about using it than he would have before, and it's not as easy for him to follow it because it disappears so quickly. You can kind of you can back off from it if you need to, and he can't play that game with you sometimes. The recovery's obviously been nerfed a few times, and they did nerf Flash kill power. That was also a big hit. So he's taken some big hits, but people still are on the Wolf train. That may go down over time. We'll see. But Switch is still getting good results with the character without too much problem. He's still really, really solid. Not too many other Wolf mains, unfortunately. So if Switch either stops playing as much or doesn't go to as much, or maybe takes a few losses that he may not have had previously, then you could see him slide down the list a little bit. But most including myself, consider Wolf to be still really strong. Fox is Fox. He's one of the most reliable characters in the game. Still very good. The only issue has and always will be that every character in this game just eats him alive in the Punish game, which is true in Melee, but in this game he has to learn way more matchups and know how to deal with all their gimmicks, or else he will explode. So that is kind of a problem. But he can always fall back on his reliable Fox game plan, and it's still very strong. Even with the nerfs from Melee Fox, he has still been extremely reliable and very good in this game. So he's fine. He's always been good. Ike is one that I haven't really seen too much complaints about either. I know someone ranked him #1 in the game. I don't think I'd go quite that far, but he's obviously been very good for a while. Pretty sure he was ranked highly on the last list as well. There you go, right in the A tier alongside heavy hitters like DK and Ice Climbers and Old Knuckles. So he has obviously been very good. He won big Louisiana tournament with Metroid as the player there, and Ike's been represented pretty much at every level all the time. Quick Draw is one of the single-handedly one of the best tools in general in the whole game. Having that, you can't really go wrong, and he's obviously got a lot of other tools alongside that make him a problem. So no surprise there. Wario's another one that's been shifted around a little bit. People put him really high in this list. He's still really high here. Wario's, once again, another kind of just super reliable character. One of those characters that, like, you would think ground speed really slow. A lot of his other moves that aren't, in neutral, that aren't back air, in neutral, flat, kind of jumping around, are not super. His range isn't great besides that, but he's just so reliable. He gets a grab, and there's so much he can do off of that, pretty much against the whole cast. Back air is just a reliable spacing tool against almost everybody. Hits hard, really good edge guarding tool as well. Nair is a great move to hit, extend combos, go for edge guards with weak hit Nair, or just kind of finish off combos if you need to get back to stage. Shoulder charge, I think there's a lot of stuff you can do with shoulder charge. You can do jump shoulder charge, and then it will cancel with no landing lag if you space it right, and you can do jab or just raw grab people out of it. Waft is obviously a really strong tool. It has been nerfed over the years, but it's still Waft. It is a passive super move you get to have every once in a while that is nothing to scoff at. So he's super reliable, and our nerfs really haven't messed with him all that much. But let's get to the first character that people consider to have been gutted, and that is Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong, surprisingly, still extremely good. The things that they changed about Donkey Kong, you can see he was around the same place in the last tier list when people thought he was pretty stupid. His down B has been significantly nerfed. It no longer meteors you off the ground for 1,000,000 hits done, and they've shrunk it again. So that move is very difficult to use now. It's basically a non-factor. They've nerfed forward air to the point that it doesn't spike you anymore. It still has a meteor, but the spike is gone. So that's huge as well. You could take stocks very, very, very early with that. They have nerfed his recovery. His up B in the air. It's way easier to edge guard now than it used to be. Has a lot. They've nerfed. I believe they nerfed the range on his little hands, or I think they took away invulnerability at one point of him as well. So a lot of big changes to DK, and he's still here, and he's still good, and because he is just reliable. Is he less reliable than before? Absolutely, because a lot of the stupid things he could kind of fall back on if things aren't going his way. He could down B a neutral. He could just up B kind of out of stuff, and it would be fine. That stuff has been made a lot worse, or if not unusable now. So he kind of has to play a little bit more honestly, if you could call DK neutral honest. And Punch has obviously had its nerfs and things like that over the years, but he is still really good just for the reliability. He's still going to hit you hard. He's still got a crazy good combo game against most of the cast. Even if he can't spike you at 50 with forward air, he can still kill you with it at 80 off of throws and things like that. So it's really not a huge deal. And the big thing though that was hit this patch was the forward throw back throw stuff. It used to be that you could get a grab, and if up throw wasn't going to get you a lot, you could do forward throw back throw mix-ups, and if they didn't guess right, you could still combo them pretty hard. They pretty much they've removed that from his kit entirely. He now has to rely on the up throw more so. So there are some characters that actually do a lot better against DK now, because at those certain percents they can escape that at least a little bit and try to reduce his punish game on them, which can make the matchup a little better. But otherwise, he's still very reliable. But to the next character who may not be seen as reliable because he's way harder, but he's still really good, and that's Diddy. Obviously, Sitmaster is #1 in the world with pretty much solo Diddy. Now, he's played a lot of other characters. He's mixed around, but about, I'd say, at least 75% of his games have been played with Diddy. So he's obviously shown Diddy still got it. Now, Diddy's really, really hard, and that's why you don't really see anybody else doing anything near Sitmaster's level with Diddy Kong. Sneeze's Diddy's really good, but even he's mostly playing Rob. Diddy is just, the neutral control is fantastic. He's fast. His kill power is not really that great, but Parker made him look like he could kill pretty good. The combos into forward air were just, I've never seen somebody combo into forward air quite like that, as frequently, as consistently at the right percentages that Sitmaster can. So Diddy is still very solid, and probably will be for quite some time, because people like Diddy. I don't think he's going to be a character that people really even want to see nerfed, if he even is considered OP, which he's still obviously not. But to a character who used to be considered OP, as you can see by this list here, used to be in the top 2, debatably top 1, Zero Suit Samus. I rated Zero Suit Samus a little low this patch. I could argue to be a little higher than what I rated her, but she's rated about where I put her in this list, give or take a few spots. She was hit really hard with the nerf hammer on this patch as well. Lost a lot of kill power, and that's kind of the main reason that I lowered her on my list. She lost a ton of kill power. Basically, most of her kill setup moves either do less damage or do less knockback straight up, no questions asked. Back air, down smash does way less damage now, but back air is a huge one that took a big nerf. Up air took a pretty big nerf, and on top of that, one of the big things she had was escapability due to her hurtbox. Hurtbox used to be really, really thin. They have expanded that now. She has a bigger hurtbox now, meaning that a lot of moves that used to hitbox shift her really badly, then not only is that going to help with that, so that it won't hurtbox shift around your stuff as much, they also just adjusted the hurtboxes on those specific moves so that they did not shift her hurtbox as much as they used to. So now she has less escapability. Her weight is now better for combos, and she's going to die earlier. She lost a lot of kill power. I think, yes, she did drop out of that S tier top 5 category for sure. Now you can argue whether she falls in the 6 to 10 range or the 10 to 15 range, really, somewhere in there, and that's kind of where she is here on this list. She's still extremely fast, still has fantastic neutral tools, like she's not lost really much range on anything. She still has great range. She's still got great mix-up potential, and her jabs are really safe to space on people and throw them out when you need to. She has a great recovery. I think up B tether characters, which are basically just Zero Suit and Ivysaur, I think up B tethers are ridiculous. You have to learn how to play a very specific minigame, and if you fail it, they can reversal you really hard. She's still got a great recovery for that, and on top of her other things too. You know, the third jump, jumping and then up B, giving you drift and more height and everything. So she's got a lot of tools, especially in neutral. She really hasn't lost a beat there, but her punish game has taken a big hit, and the damage she can do and the kill power has really caused her to struggle, I think, a little bit. So I kind of agree with this placement. Somewhere in here is pretty much where I would have her, but that's what I would do to explain the change there. Sonic is one that they talked about. You can see he was put in the top 6, pretty much top 5 in the last one, but now he is in this tier. There's a lot of things that affected Sonic. They did adjust his up throw to not be as reliable of a throw combo. It still really is, but not quite as good as it was before. But one of the biggest things was the removal of stack stun, which I mentioned with Captain Falcon. Really affects Sonic too, because one of his main combo starters against some of these midweight characters at low percent was up throw into down air. Their first set of down air is a spike. So what would happen is he would up throw you, jump up and spike you into the ground, and then he would recover from his down air. Before you hit the ground, you are in stack stun, meaning that when you hit the ground, you don't actually enter a grounded hit stun state where you're able to tech. You just kind of float there, where you're totally grabbable and everything, and he just regrabs you. And he could do that a couple times until it leaves stack stun, basically until you enter actual tumble hit stun. So he could do it a few times on certain characters, and it was pretty much guaranteed and almost impossible to escape without some pretty damn good SDI. With the removal of stack stun, that means that you're either going to be actionable quicker because you're going to ASDI down and hit the ground and become grounded, in which case you can attack, or you're going to go into a tech situation, which means now he has to tech chase you if he wants to do that. So that's no longer as reliable for him anymore, and that's a big low percent combo thing that he lost. So those are all pretty big deals, and I think that explains why this is the first time he's really gone down on a tier list at all. But he's still obviously Sonic. He's really fast. He still has up throw, and it's a very good combo throw, even if it's not one of the best in the game anymore. He's still fast as hell, still can play the keep away game and play the whiff punish game on you from absurd distances because he's Sonic. So he's still very, very good. There's no surprises that he's this good and not here, but that's to explain why he has gone down, because those are some big changes that, even if they're not directed at him specifically, he ate something big from that. Now to Mario. So he's probably around the same spot too, a little higher just given the fact that there's less characters up here, but he's towards the bottom of the A+ tier here. Once again, a theme with these characters is reliability. There's too many things that combo into forward air for the entire cast for Mario to not be good. He's not a slow character. He's got a somewhat reliable projectile with Fireball that can lead into grabs or lead into his confirms like down tilt and stuff. His recovery is the biggest thing that took a nerf in the last patch, which was mainly the just his actual up B distance being cut pretty significantly, like very, very noticeable right off the bat. So his recovery took a pretty big hit, and that's a big reason why he is a little worse than he was before. But his reliability is still there. He still has a good recovery. It's just not, one of the best in the game like it was the last version. He still has pretty much all of his combos into forward air. One of the most reliable kill options and ways to net stocks, and so that's why you're pretty much always going to see Mario be probably around where he is right now due to that reliability. That's really not going anywhere for Mario. He's kind of built around that. So Link is too. The two kind of faces of Smash, Mario and Link, the big franchises of Nintendo. Both of them in this game made to be very, very simple in their game plan. They want to just do some damage, get you to that right, nice sweet spot percent, and then hit you with their throw kill confirm. Right? And they do it really, really well. The only difference is Mario is a little faster, so he can be a little bit more tricky in neutral, whereas Link is a little slow. So we'll get to him. So next up is A tier and Lucas. So Lucas is one where he pretty much was where he was last time. He just got put into the next tier down. I still think Lucas is fantastic. I know there's some Lucas players that are a little down on Lucas because I think there's some bug or something with the back air. I don't know if it's a bug or if it's intended. At this point, I don't really know. Makes it harder to get that spike hitbox, and that's a big deal. And they made the weak hit a lot worse. But Lucas is still very good. He's still getting results consistently. Still a lot of good Lucas players out there putting in big time work. So I don't really see any huge deal with Lucas myself. He's still one of the best characters in neutral. He's so fast. He's got so many safe ways to start combos, and his combos are devastating. One of the best punish games in the game. It's hard to access the punish game. There's characters like DK and Wario and Falcon and stuff who can access the punish game pretty easily. Lucas does require some work, but when you do, he has one of the most devastating punishes in the game. That is some of the hardest to actually counterplay and get out of with DI and SDI. It can be very difficult. But Lucas still fantastic. Fan favorite. Everyone loves the Lucas. So that's where he stands. Knuckles is one that people, people who don't follow the games, he's surprised he's even on a picture here. He's even in the game. So let's get to Knuckles. You can see Knuckles up here was one of the best characters in the game. Now he is good, right? He's in towards the middle of the list now, a little higher than average. And the reason why is he got a lot of changes as well. Big changes to his throws, mainly his down throw. He used to have 2 real combo throws, and that was up throw and down throw. Down throw being the real moneymaker in some cases. That would just be pretty much inescapable for a lot of characters. That just it ate them alive if he ever grabbed them at a certain spot. Pretty much where the down throw sent them off stage, and he did down throw. He could pretty much always reliably get forward air, the kind of non-meteor forward air, and you were dead. And there's nothing you could do about it. He had one of the best recoveries in the game, still does, but not quite as oppressive. The big changes to the recovery are his glide. It used to go really far. Now it doesn't go quite as far, as well as if he up Bs. His first up B that he does when he has not touched the ground yet is actionable, just like it was before, where he can do combo extensions out of it and stuff like that. But if you hit him during that and send him back off stage to where he has to up B again, his next up Bs will not allow him to be actionable. So if you're able to successfully edgeguard the up B a single time, he should be toast. And that is a welcome change to the recovery. He was very, very hard to get edgeguard for 99% of the cast. It was very hard for them to contest anything he would do off stage. Now you can actually try to contest some of it. That's a big deal, as well as the throws. Those are the biggest things. There's been some hitbox reductions and things like that to the sizes of certain moves, but they're still pretty big, so not huge on that front, but those things are pretty big. So that would explain why he goes down a little bit. Up throw is still a great combo tool against a lot of the cast, but the loss of the down throw kill confirm is probably the biggest change to him along with the recovery. So that explains that, but he's still fast for a heavy character that hits hard. Still got great smash attacks. Up smash is still fantastic. Down smash is still one of the dumbest moves in the game. And his recovery is still very good. It's just not top 2 in the game, possibly top 1 for a character with 2 jumps. And some hitbox reductions have lowered it, so he's fine. Next is a controversial one with Mewtwo. Mewtwo used to be God tier. Now he's kind of with the schmucks. He was up here before, and he really hasn't had too many nerfs yet. Now he's here. And it's just community perception, really. He hasn't really lost anything. I think pretty much it's similar to an opinion I'll have of a later character. If one person picks up Mewtwo and gets a decent result with him, he will immediately jump back up to pretty much where he was before. He will immediately go back up to where Marth, Fox, Wolf, and them are. Right back up there, but he has slowly lowered in perception due to lack of representation. He's a weird character to play. You really have to put the time into him and then go out and do some stuff with him to really make it work, and it can be a little tricky. But for a character that really has had no changes, it's pretty much all community perception. And, we'll see. I pretty much had him around there, around the middle, so give or take. But, I don't know off the top of my head exactly where, but we'll get to that. I think he's still very good, and he's still ripe to rise up again if someone's willing to do it. But right now, it's one of those things when you're ranking it, you have characters who are good and who have the reps and who are getting the results, and then you have characters who are good, who are pretty good, who aren't, and it's just hard to rationalize putting them up there unless they're significantly better, and a lot of people can't come to that conclusion. But next is the surprise, Yoshi. I believe the biggest jump in the tier list of everyone. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I'm not going to go look at the post again, but I'm pretty sure that's right. This character, depending on who you ask, is either still very mid or an abomination. I lean more towards the abomination side. Even though I didn't rank him that high, I think he is crazy. He weighs an absolute ton, so there's a lot of characters that either can't kill him till 200 or have no way of doing it because their normal throw confirms. They can't use them because he's too heavy. So that can become a problem, and because of the armor, he's very hard for a lot of characters to actually edgeguard. There are ways to kind of gimmick edgeguard him, and that can kill him at low percents, but most Yoshis are pretty smart about it. They won't fall for that kind of thing, and he'll live to 200 pretty consistently, and that's just tough for a character that lands one grab and murders you at around 110. His down throw is possibly one of the best throws in the game. It might be the single best throw in the game. It combos pretty much everybody forever. If you grab somebody at like 400 with Yoshi down throw, you can probably at least get an up air out of it and kill them. Pretty much every time, no matter what DI they do. If not a nair or even a smash attack. It's a ridiculous throw. His dash grab even got better in the last version, so it even got a buff, and that grab is good at every percent. Pretty much against every character, he can get a down throw, and he will get massive damage off of it. And that reliable throw game is going to net him a ton off of, in every game that he's in, as long as the Yoshi can do it. It is a mechanically intensive character for the most part to really output that kind of damage off of throw with the double jump cancels and things, but even then, I don't know. I still don't think he's even that difficult mechanically. I think he's tricky. He's a weird character to learn for sure, but I think mechanically speaking, he's not even really up there with the likes of like Lucas and Ness and the Spaceys and stuff like that. I think they're a lot more mechanically intensive. But yeah, he's still pretty tricky, and that's, egg throw is, you basically can't contest egg throw with the eggs. They not only have big hitboxes, even if you clank them, they have big explosion hitboxes that will probably end up hitting you anyway. So most characters can't really mess with the eggs. Because he's got armor, and there's always the threat of being reversaled, it's really hard to edge guard him. And because he lives forever, because he lives so long, because he's so heavy, he can almost make it back all the time against a lot of characters. And things like egg roll are a lot better than you would think they would be. That move is pretty nuts. Is pretty much safe if you shield him exiting it. It's very hard to punish that. And if it hits you, they could release it and get an advantage state over it, and it's pretty wild. And it can clank on grounded moves. It's kind of wild. Yeah, so he's pretty crazy. If you like Yoshi in this game, and if you like Yoshi in general, he's good. He's very good, and he's pretty easy too. So don't give him a try. But another character is considered pretty easy. Game & Watch. Game & Watch, the gutted character. You can see he was around here. He's a little higher now, given that he won a major last year. Not quite solo Game & Watch. Ellipses did play Ivysaur against Soul Officer Snake earlier in the bracket. I did commentate that set at that tournament. But they pretty much play Game & Watch other than that, and they beat some of the best players in the world with Game & Watch. Game & Watch is still very solid. He lost a lot of his shenanigans, and a lot of pretty much every tool in his arsenal did get hit coming out of 3.6, and so there you see it kind of reflected here in this list where he was considered kind of on the weaker side, but obviously he's just his game plan is simple, it's reliable. Once again, falling back to that reliability, it's universal. He can do that against almost everybody. You don't have to change too much about how you're playing for a lot of your matchups, especially in your punish game. A lot of it is some of the same stuff. And his recovery is fantastic and also pretty consistent. And easy to execute, of course. He's very easy, very simple to play, very easy to execute comparatively speaking. And so yeah, he's up here, and some people are surprised. I myself am not, but I think once most people saw that he won a major, I think a lot of the surprise went out the window. But then there's Rob. I'm huge on Rob. I'm big on Rob. Not that I'm big on Rob in the sense that I like him. Big on Rob that I think he's good. I think this character is super good. I think I actually put him higher on my list than on this one. This character's crazy. I have been convinced this character is super good and super slept on. He's got a great recovery. Very, very versatile with the triple boosts. He's got great moves. I can't think of a single move in Rob's kit that isn't good or very good. I can't think of any. Every move I think of that is like, oh, forward tilt. Nope, forward tilt's good. Up tilt. No, up tilt's really good. There really isn't a bad move in this guy's entire kit. He's got item gameplay. He's got a recharging laser that can either snipe you off stage or can be used in neutral. He can use boost offensively and defensively. He can make, things like falling nair and falling forward air. You really have to respect at all points because boost is so fast that if you're anywhere near that range, he can just challenge you with those and he can start to dominate. And then he has down smash, and down smash is one of the best moves in the game, honestly. That thing is crazy. It's one of the best scramble moves in the game. Just absolutely dumpsters on CC. Not in the same way that Peach's down smash dumpsters on CC or Samus's, but it just wins a lot of those exchanges. Any scramble that he can get down smash out, he will probably win that scramble. It is that good. And in a game where everyone's just holding down all the time, having CC down smash and having it just beat everything, if it actually gets to come out, and it's a pretty fast move, but it's not slow or anything. And having a combo, you can combo out of it. It makes it so it's something he can very easily rely on in many situations, and it will just win him neutral, and he can go to town. So I think Rob is crazy good. I don't see a problem with where he is right now. I could even see him going up in the future. Keep an eye on Rob. Now it's the Menace Snake. This character we all thought was terrible. We all thought he was bad because all the Snake players said he was terrible and that he was unplayable, and they all quit. So we're like, well, I don't play Snake, so I guess they're right. And then we have what we have now, where there's a bunch of Snake players, and they're all doing fine, and everyone's like, man, wait a minute, we've been fooled. This character's fine. That's essentially what's going on. So we were wrong. This list, we were just wrong. There's really no other explanation. This was just incorrect. I apologize. I didn't even help make this other list, but I apologize on behalf of my community. We were wrong. This character was and is stupid. So this character, I think they could even go higher possibly on the list in the future. They could definitely compete with some spots up higher. Unless they hit a nerf hammer at some point. They are very susceptible to it because they are Snake, and they have some very silly things in their kit, like first hit forward tilt, and Trank, and C4, and all those things that make him cool are pretty crazy. Dacus is pretty wild of a move. So yeah, he's not surprised anyone who's been playing lately. He's up there. But if you saw this last list and you're like, wait a minute, how did this guy jump 20 spots? Yeah, we are bad. That honestly, I'm sorry on behalf of the community. We were fooled into thinking he was not very good. So my bad. Now we're back to now we're finally past the A tiers. We're now past kind of the middle. We're now towards this is really the mid tiers right now at this point. So now is Falco, very separated from his other spacey brethren. He just isn't as consistent as them. His recovery is still worse than them by a significant margin, even though he has the fire hitbox on his up B, which was a pretty meaningful buff, actually. To be honest, it's pretty nice that he has that. But with a lot of the changes from melee still kind of being in place that he has, it's still an uphill battle in a game where basically the entire cast can edgeguard him pretty hard. He's still capable of doing really well, and we've seen good Falco players put in a lot of work, but he's very difficult to play and not nearly as consistently rewarding as the other Spaceys and even Lucas. So not too surprised that he's there, but he's good. So you see him probably right in the middle. Then there's Kirby. This character is possibly the most buffed character in the game as of this last patch. I can't think of a character who got more buffs in a single patch than this guy. Completely reworked their forward throw to be one of the best throws in the game. It might be the best throw in the game. Like, single best, Kirby's forward throw and Yoshi's down throw, they're both so good. It's unbelievable how good they are. Kirby's forward throw, he can waveland out of it and then can chain grab a lot of characters doing it. And if he can't chain grab you, he gets a huge punish, if not hammers you. And hammer is one of the strongest aerial finishers in the game. There's a lot of characters where he can just get forward throw at certain percents, jump up and land the hammer just right, and you explode. It's him having that consistent punish game is basically the difference between where he was and where he is now. He did not have this before. And now he has one of the best throw punish games in the game on a character where a lot of characters can't grab him. It's pretty wild. He's got a lot of other tools as well that got buffed. A lot of aerials and grounded moves got buffed, and he even got a new grounded down B that is very annoying to deal with playing against Kirby. And he has all the tools he had before. Good at it. He's got pretty good edge guarding. His recovery is pretty wild to actually try and edge guard. That his up B cutter is that thing's huge to try and actually edge guard. I mean, you might as well. Most characters might as well not even try to edge guard that. But now him having that reliable throw game is such a game changer. That forward throw is just disgusting. And so not surprised that he's here. He's still a little slow on the ground. Still gets outranged pretty hard by a lot of characters, so that kind of holds him back. It's hard for him to fight his way in without either trying to abuse a crouch whiff, like crouch and have you whiff something and then sneak his way in, or doing like a dash attack off a platform. That's basically all he has to try and get in. Otherwise, if you got big moves or you're fast, it's pretty tough. And if you want to see a funny matchup, Fox Kirby is one of the dumbest matchups in the whole game, because if Fox ever grabs him, he explodes at 60. And if Kirby ever gets him off stage or ever gets a grab on Fox, it's over. Like, it's one of the gnarliest matchups in the game. Still think it's Fox favored, but like, man, that's a funny matchup. But then there's Pikachu, one of the hardest characters in the game. And that's kind of why you see him there. There really just isn't anybody pushing the character right now. Anther showed up for a bit, and he won. He did really well at some tournaments with Pikachu. So Pikachu still got it, and I think Pikachu's being underrated here, and I think he's been underrated in this game for a very long time. You can see on the last list, if I go to that, he's around almost a very similar spot to where he is now, not too, pretty much a mid-tier. I think he's very good, but he is one of the trickiest characters to really get good at. He's just so technically hard in so many different ways. Even just recovering with him is a feat in and of itself. But you know, quick attack canceling is just such a ridiculous neutral tool that he has access to. He still has one of the best up smashes in the game. On top of Thunder being able to do just like Axe shows it in Melee, similar thing going on. He's got 64 back air, which is just a straight better move than Melee, so he's got just a straight upgrade. Forward air is absolutely fantastic in this game. He can get combos into forward air and then up smash you out of forward air because of its low lag and the higher stun that it has. And low SDI multiplier too, so it's hard to get out of it, and he just gets up smashes out of that. And obviously it's still one of the best up smashes in the game, like I mentioned before. Still really, really good character, but really hard, and no one's really putting the time into him, so he's kind of falling into the Mewtwo effect a little bit. But unlike Mewtwo, he's never been a top tier, so it's a little less shocking. But then there's Link. Similar, like I said about Mario, just a consistent character. Very consistent, not too technically demanding. The only thing technically demanding about him is his recovery, really, getting those bomb thrusts. Being able to bomb thrust is basically the difference between being able to really push Link to the limit and being limited by his recovery. Because without the bomb thrust, his recovery is pretty average, if not worse than average. With bomb thrust, he can live forever. He can kind of pull a Snake, where Snake does the C4 bombs on himself to keep up being again and again. Link can kind of do the same thing, and he can just live forever. So if Link can do that, he can really be a problem. But he's still a little slow. He still kind of relies on some burst movement and just walling you out. And the grab is a lot worse than Mario's. Mario can kind of spam grab and get away with it with his regular standing grab. Link does not have that luxury. A missed grab is devastating for him. And but he does have the reliable down throw down air confirms. And when that doesn't work, and when that stops working, you down throw up air and they die. So he's got one of the best reliable throws in the game. Unfortunately, his grab sucks, so that kind of holds it back a little bit. But he's still really reliable and really mechanically simple and has a simple game plan. So he's still got a lot of good tools that keep him there. Charizard's a weird one too. I mean, you see he's around here as well. A big fast character with a lot of jumps. Is with good range and fast moves. That it's going to be hard to beat that. He's got a lot of good tools. Obviously, everyone says funny nair, haha, big nair. Do just nair forehead for Charizard. But he's got a lot of good tools. He's fast, big. It weighs a lot. Is floaty, hard. Can sometimes be pretty hard to combo for some characters. Got a really, really good recovery with glide. Is not quite as good as he used to be, but it's still pretty damn good. He's got Thunder Punch now, and that's crazy. But he's still just a little big. And that kind of holds him back a little bit. It's hard for him to play neutral sometimes because he's just so large that unless he walls you out with his big hitboxes trying to play the speed game, it can be hard for him. He doesn't have a lot of great approaching aerials to come at you with. So if he wants to approach you, it's got to kind of be with grounded moves. He can kind of approach with like raw nair sometimes, but it's even then if he hits that, it can be sometimes hard to capitalize off of. So he wants to play a little more defensive. He wants to wall you out. He wants you to come to him so that he can wall you out and then start his punish that way. He's just kind of hard for him to like pressure as the character who needs to approach because he just doesn't have many great approaches. Can't really approach with like nair. It's best if you face away from them, so it can be hard to use as an approach. Forward air is not a great approaching move either. It's really have to jump and then you're floaty and then you come down with forward air. It can be pretty good on shield, but a little slow to get going. Up air is not going to hit anybody really in that spot, and down air is a stomp, and Zard doesn't have the air mobility to really run at you and then stomp you going across your body or something. That's kind of what holds him back a little bit. But otherwise, I think he's really solid. He's fast, good reach, good hitboxes, good kill power, good recovery. Can edge guard pretty well. He's got a lot of good tools. And then Olimar is a weird one. He's kind of been hovering around the mid-tier for a while. He was on the lower end of the mid-tier last patch. But you see, obviously, he had a good showing in Undertow with CP9 and Bs. So you see him here. He's raising a little bit. Not too much. I think he only rose a few spots, but not too surprising. Could see him continue to go up, but CP9 did drop Olimar. So, we'll see what happens in the next year or so with the character. But he's been on the upswing. He's got a lot of buffs coming into P+. We were waiting to see really when that would start to shine. CP9 started to get some good results along with Bs in them. So that it started to kind of come along. But finally at Undertow, it really broke out, and everyone's like, whoa, Olimar, crazy. So he's good, right? He's been slowly climbing up. I think people are starting to see the light with Olimar. It's pretty good. Problems are, he's way simpler than you would think. He's got the whole Pikmin mechanic, but in reality, he's kind of just pull yellow and black, or not yet black, purple. Pull yellow and purple and get the Lakers, and go nuts, right? And that's what you're aiming for. And you can work with everything else. You see a blue, do a funny pivot grab. See a white, throw that at him and get him to stick him. It's really not too hard to play Olimar. It seems hard on paper, then you play him and you're like, well, wait a minute, I could just get a yellow and get a purple and swing it at people and they die. Isn't that crazy? Because his kit's very simple. It's not very hard at all. So he's simple, doesn't have the reliability of some of the other characters, so I think that holds him back a little bit. His recovery's better than it used to be for sure, but still not great. So I think that holds him back still, and I don't think he's ever going to be a top tier anytime soon, but he's solid. He's solid and can be very tricky to deal with for sure. Next is Ivysaur. This is I don't like that he's this low. I think we're all having, we're having amnesia right now about Ivysaur. I saw some people putting Ivysaur super, super low on their list. I feel like I'm going crazy. Ivysaur is one of the easiest characters in the game to be good with, and I'm not, I love Soth and I love Saber. I love Saber. And he really pushed Ivysaur and did a lot of cool stuff with Ivy that was a lot trickier than Ivysaur really needed to do, is what I'm getting at. Ivysaur really doesn't need to do anything that crazy. Can be played very simply and get a ton of value. Has an up B tether, and like I mentioned with Zero Suit earlier, up B tethers are extremely tricky to deal with and can be very scary to mess with to try and edge guard them. So that makes the recovery pretty nuts. A good range, obviously, great consistent combo game. Beam is very good, even though it is a lot harder for Ivy to get Beam now. So you're gonna see it less and less in every game. Whereas it'd be very hard to play a good Ivy and not have them get 2 beams a game. Now it's more like they're gonna get 1.5 usually. If they've absolutely popped off or you've let them sit there for a while and not challenge them, they could get 2. But for the most part, you're only gonna have to deal with 1 beam a game against a pretty good Ivysaur, that would have been a godsend in previous versions. So that helps. But like as you can see, Ivy's kind of dropping down a little bit, and I'm just not about it. I think Ivy's very good, and I think it'll take one person to be good at Ivy, and then we'll all remember, because people like Soth and will just randomly show up and not practice and beat everyone's ass and just come, belt to ass. And I think that kind of speaks for itself, right? Kala from Florida never practiced. It was notorious that he never practiced, and would just body everybody anyway. So I think this character is super, super good, and has not really been touched too hard for most of their kit, though the beam has eaten a lot of nerfs over time. And I think that is a big deal. I do think that does lower them a bit, but I still think they're very good. I can definitely see them being higher than this with some results. Now we're finally kind of getting to the lower end here. Squirtle's a big one. With Squirtle, he lost Water Gun. That's a huge thing. Even with Water Gun, you can see he was still kind of down here. When that P+ version came out, people thought he was actually way better. I saw some tier lists that put him like pretty solidly in the mid tier, if not a little higher, because Water Gun was so ridiculous. It was still insane and made some matchups look impossible. I'm gonna be honest. Watching Dirt Boy versus Michael at 2 Undertows ago, that looked unplayably bad for Michael, for Puff. I don't know what Puff's supposed to do there. Water Gun was absurd. And Water Gun has now been nerfed with not too much compensation going Squirtle's way. That really made a difference, so you're seeing Squirtle here. What Squirtle has going for them is the results of Dirt Boy. Cloudburst hasn't really been playing much anymore, if at all, to my knowledge, and there really isn't another Squirtle taking up the mantle at that level, so it's pretty much just been Dirt Boy. If it wasn't for Dirt Boy, this character would be much lower. Dirt Boy's still getting good results, and was obviously ranked very high in the PM rank, so you're seeing Squirtle around here. But I think the list is being generous due to the results of Dirt Boy. I think with less results, if Dirt Boy wasn't around, people would have a way lower opinion of Squirtle. Now we go to Roy, a character everyone wants to be good and never is. And the reason why is because they're slow. They just aren't very fast. They are as fast as Bowser in terms of ground speed. And that's pretty wild, given that they're supposed to be like Marth, and Marth is way faster, and look where Marth is. Now, what Roy does have going for him is he's a lot simpler game plan than Marth, for example. His level of execution in order to get value out of Roy is lower. Just hit a down tilt. You can kind of go crazy on combos. You have a good up throw against and forward throw down throws and stuff. You F smash just kills people, and you don't need to space that. Just get right next to him, and it kills him. Right? And that's not to say he doesn't have any. He's not hard to play. He still has. You need solid movement. Good fundamental movement like Marth. Having Marth movement with Roy will exponentially make it a lot easier to play Roy and make you better. But in terms of just his game plan, it just tends to be simpler. He struggles though against a lot of characters that he can't more reliably kill. A lot of heavies he has problems with, especially when they take him to bigger stages. He just can't really kill them all that well consistently. He's not really, unless he tries to Hail Mary F smash them, it's going to be pretty hard to kill them, and then they edge guard him very hard. He's also a fast faller, so he eats a lot more damage than even Marth will, because Marth's kind of a semi-floaty. Roy being a semi-fast faller means that he's going to get chain grabbed a lot more, he's going to get comboed a lot harder, he's going to eat a lot more damage more consistently, and therefore he's a lot more punishing to play. But he's very cool. Everyone loves Roy. Everyone wants Roy to be really good. But unfortunately, unless they make him a little faster, then I don't know. I have a hard time believing he's going to be much better than where he is now. But then there's Ness, who, shoutouts to Ryzul, and I mean, Ness has always been getting good results. At pretty much every stage of the game, no matter how good people think Ness is, he's getting results. There's always been a good Ness at some point. Every time the good Ness player stops playing, another one randomly pops up, and he just starts being really good. Not that he wasn't already, but just like, oh, there's another one, where it never ends with Ness. There's always a good Ness somewhere, and still he ends up around this spot. You can see he wasn't much far. He was around the same spot in the last one too. Not too much different. But you know, there's just on paper. I was talking to Ryzel on Twitter about this today. Ness on paper looks like he should be bad. He's got no range on anything. He isn't particularly fast. He's not slow on the ground at all, but he's not particularly fast on the ground. You can have great movement with him, but he's not going to zoom at you from across the stage like that. He has a terrible recovery. With PK Thunder 2 is better than it is in a lot of the other games, but it's still not very good. And the floaty double jump, you know, he gets juggled pretty hard if you can dodge his reversals, like down air and things like that. Because you know, if you have a good up air with some range, not much he can really do, because he can't really double jump out of anything, because then he's just dead if he does that. So there's a lot of things on paper that you look at Ness and go, man, not really feeling it. Then you play a good Ness and you're like, man, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. This character's crazy. So it's weird to rank Ness because of that, because he feels so much better when you play against him, but then when you're not playing against him and you're just thinking about him, you go, man, Ness sounds kind of bad. So it's weird, but he always gets good results. I think, you know, Ryzel said he'd put him higher. I probably put him around that spot too myself. He's a weird character to rank for sure, but he's got a lot of potential, and he's always had a good representative. Like, always. There's always been a good Ness. But now we are to probably the most nerfed character in the latest version, probably hands down, is Ice Climbers. They were gutted. Absolutely gutted. Sopo lost his solo chain grab against a lot of characters. They completely lost the handoff spike at the ledge. Completely, because Nana's spike is no longer a spike anymore. So that is just completely not a thing. And on top of that, they cut the range. They removed Perfect Nana Throw. I believe that's what it's called. I know it's pronounced PNT. It might be Perfect Nana Toss or Perfect Nana Throw. I forget. But they removed PNT, which means you cannot buffer the throw Nana's going to do anymore to guarantee your chain grabs no matter what spot in the stage you're on. And on top of all that, the range at which Nana is guaranteed to do the throws you need her to do your handoffs at the ledge, they cut that in half. So you have to go farther to the corner and get your grab to be able to get your handoffs that even lead to the ledge to, at this point, do F smash, because forward air, unless it's going to meteor them and kill them, you're not going to spike them anymore. So they took a ton of hits. I even think their recovery got hit too. The Squall Hammer recovery even got hit pretty hard. So they got absolutely mauled. I still think they're okay. I still think they have potential, and I think there's a lot that can be done with them. But they are now forced to explore those more conventional punish game trees off their throws now, and I just don't think they're very good at that. I think they need a lot of effort to get good punishes off that, and they're just not conventionally good at that, is what I mean. You can play other characters and basically get a ton of value out of that, and the Ice Climbers just don't, and it takes a lot of effort to do it. And then on top of that, you kind of lost your early kills that made you super threatening to grab, to getting grabbed. So I can honestly see them dropping if no Icy's reps, like if Tech Boy stops going to stuff as much, and Icy's drop the game. I could see them dropping lower, personally. But I think where they are right now is fine. We'll see what happens. They're kind of the biggest question mark right now, I would say, when it comes to the rest of the characters on the list. But now there's Ganon. Ganon has kind of gone up and down in public opinion. I think his public opinion right now is a little lower than it probably should be. I think I have him a little higher than this. But he's once again very reliable. But the problem is he is very slow. So that kind of wanes back on him. His recovery is not great. It's better than people give it credit for, but it's still not very good, particularly. But he's so reliable. You get a grab and you're going to do some gnarly damage. He's scary to deal with. You know, burst dash attack is one of the scariest things to deal with in neutral against Ganon. He's got F-tilt, which is kind of a nutty move that, that made Wisconsin ban tilt stick for a while because of Chalupi doing it. You know, funny stuff like that. But Ganon's very solid. I think you could definitely see him move up a little bit. I don't think he really has much room to go down. I think he's really only going to go up, but we'll see. Pit's another one that people had some questions about. You know, Pit's been hovering around mid-tier for a while. He's around right here. He's a little higher than he is now on this one. He's kind of dropped in public opinion. And that's also due to, once again, there really hasn't been a great Pit representative pretty much ever. You know, there's been some guys with some secondaries, like a Sosa's secondary Pit. You know, Kip came out of retirement one time to play Pit and beat my ass. So, like, there's a couple Pits that come out of the ground. I know Zoe is playing a little bit of Pit, but nobody getting some crazy results at anything with solo Pit in a very long time. So it's hard. You know, he's kind of one of those characters that just doesn't have a lot of outstanding tools. He's got a lot of good stuff, but nothing that makes you go, wow. And that's kind of a problem in this game. You really need to have some wow factor in your kit to really get anything going, and he's not nearly as... If you don't have any wow in your kit, you got to have something super reliable that just kills people. Like it's Link down throw, like a Mario down throw, like DK grab in general, right? You got to Lucas down air up smash. You got to have something that Snake C4ing you. You got to have something super reliable if you're going to kind of be a boring character that doesn't have anything standout-ish, and he doesn't have that. He absolutely does not have like a super nice throw confirm that just kills people. He doesn't, so he has to work pretty hard, you know, for his edge guards and things like that. He's a little weak to CC, but doesn't have a ton of great answers to CC, you know, to deal with that. So that can make him a little scary sometimes against some of these bigger characters that can kill him pretty early because he weighs so little off of like reversal grabs and stuff. But he's pretty solid. I think he's a really solid character. He could definitely move up with some representation and getting some results here, but he's just, no one's really playing him just because he just doesn't have that wow factor or that consistency of like a confirm. So he has to work pretty hard for those kills. But I think he's very versatile, he's fast, very versatile. He's got arrow. He's got a tool for everything, just nothing standout. And I think that's kind of the main thing holding him back. Then you got Bowser. Used to be a problem. Right now, he's kind of lowered a little bit. I know there's somebody in AZ who's putting in some work. I forget their name off the top of my head, but shout outs to them. They're getting some good results over in AZ and some of their stuff. Getting some nice wins with Bowser. But also kind of a lack of representation with Bowser as well. There was some early on, but now it's kind of fallen off a little bit. I think he's about where he should be. I'd say this is probably fine for Bowser. But, you know, he definitely has some room for growth, but honestly, I think he might be on the downswing. You can see he's about where he is right now here. Might have gone a little down the list, but not by too much. And I think he might continue to drop, given other, you know, factors. But last, we're down to the final two tiers here of the, you know, I think in my tier list, I'll show you, I kind of group all these together. I think having them in two separate tiers is a little silly, but we'll go over them. DDD is one that I could see being on the upswing. I think he's got a lot of potential. Doctor has shown that, winning Exodus with DDD solo against some really good players. I think DDD's got a lot of room for improvement and going up this list. That's why I think like Bowser could fall. I think Ices could fall because I think DDD is one of the characters that could move up on the list to kind of take their place. He's been considered low tier for forever. You see he's bottom 3 in the last tier list, and now he is outside of bottom 3 in this tier. I think with some people with some more representation, if Doctor continues to go to some stuff, I know he's a little he's mostly retired, but if he does go to some stuff around him and continues to do well with him, I could see his public opinion going upwards. I know his public opinion is still pretty low, besides a few people, but I think he definitely has room to go up this list for sure. Now, my biggest take, I think Zelda still sucks. There's a lot of people who think Zelda's pretty good. There was some whack job who put Zelda top 4 on the last list. It's in the article. Go read it if you want to gouge your eyes out. But this character is still not good. And that doesn't, and now a lot of Zeldas get mad at me about that. A lot of people in this game have pride over their characters because there's really not many of us playing compared to other games. So a lot of people get defensive about things like that. Look, Zelda players, your character is very bad. I think the fact that you guys are doing anything with this character is pretty good. So if anything, take it as a compliment to the good Zelda players. I think y'all are putting in some good work with a pretty doo-doo character. I think Zelda might actually be worse than some of these other characters. She actually, I think, could go down. I don't think that's going to be the public opinion. I think I'm the minority. I don't think Zelda's very good, and I don't know why she's moving up people's lists. I truly do not. I think she's very reliable. She's kind of got the DK factor where she's super easy. She's very easy to play. So you're really not going to flub too much. You're not going to SD all that much. There really isn't that much to mess up. It's just executing your game plan. And the problem is her game plan, it's hard to do because she's slow. She's slow, and she doesn't have a lot of approach tools, so she plays super defensive. And you either run into her and get killed, or you don't and she dies. And there's, if you play it right, it's pretty hard for her to do a lot. She's got really good edge guarding with Din's placements and things like that. She can be pretty solid with it, but it's pretty hard to execute that, in terms of placing your stuff, not mechanically, but just placing it and doing it right. It can be pretty tough, but she's just really easy and pretty nice tournament character because of that. With just you can just kick people out of stuff and they'll die because they'll have terrible DI and things like that. And I think a lot of people think Zelda's better because that happens to them a lot. But I don't know. Not buying it. I think Zelda's still pretty bad. I think where she is right now is fine. I think she could go lower, possibly. I don't see her going up. Unless buffs happen. Buffs can always change things. Then Toon Link. This is actually my bottom 1 character in the game. And now, in my tier list, I will show you after we're done. I don't really think he's bottom 1. It was a numbered list when we did it. We had to number everything, so somebody had to be at the bottom. So I happened to put Toon Link there. I am not super hard convinced he's the worst character in the game, so it's not like I'm super hard on that opinion. You'll see my bottom tier, and it has a lot of characters in it, because I don't really think there's that many. I don't think there's that many terrible characters. I think everyone's pretty good, so I don't think there's a reason to have this many tiers. But yeah, he's my bottom 1 on my numbered list that I had to submit. But he lacks the representation. He's kind of a worse version of Link in a lot of ways, with just how the kit works. He doesn't have that. He has some of the reliability that Link does, but not quite there. It's a little bit more character dependent on his throw confirms and things like that. And his combo game can be a little finicky sometimes. His recovery is also a lot worse too, because him bomb thrusting is a lot worse than Link bomb thrusting. It's a lot easier, but it's a lot worse. So he's got a way worse recovery, and on top of that, he's a light semi-fast faller, meaning a lot of characters can decimate Toon Link in the combo game. They just murder him compared to Link, who is kind of heavy. He's actually on the heavier side, so it's a little harder to throw confirm Link sometimes compared to Toon Link. And he also has less range because his sword's a little smaller. But I think he's one of those characters that you could see, and now a lot of people have dropped him. Like, obviously Lunchables doesn't play too much anymore, just in general in singles. DVD, even when he was at, when he made number 1, he really didn't play Toon Link at all. And so really no one's playing Toon Link. So he's kind of falling into that boat again of just not enough representation to really change public opinion. And he's been on that bottom swing for a while now. You can see even on the last one, he was just escaping these bottom 2 tier lists. But right here, he was moving in that direction, and I think even then, most of people's opinion of Toon Link wasn't very high. You could kind of see the writing on the wall that he was going to go down a little bit. Same with the next character we're going to talk about. But I think right here, I think where he is about the public opinion for the most part. Then Peach. Now this is the biggest one for people who haven't been playing PM all that much. Why she is so quote unquote bad. So there's a couple reasons why she's down here, and one of them is, once again, the same thing I've been repeating a few times, just no representation, really, at all. When Malachi was playing Peach and doing some stuff, she was considered to be pretty good, but no one's playing Peach, so nobody cares. And that's pretty much where we're at. There's no results to go off of, and nobody's doing anything with the character. And on top of that, while she is better than Melee Peach in a vacuum, in my opinion, there are some matchups that are just very, very hard. Key one being Ike. I know Peach players, that is like nightmare matchup for Melee Peach players who dabbled in PM, played PM. Ike is like haunts their dreams. It's very funny to read about how much they hate Ike, but I understand it. So there are things like that where some matchups are just very hard for Peach to deal with in this game, and she doesn't really have to deal with much in Melee. And I think that's a big deal. So, and on top of that, like I said, just lack of representation is really going to put the nail in the coffin there. I think she also has room to grow. I said to someone on Twitter, if someone plays Peach and does good with her one time, she's going to move up 10 spots minimum on the list. It's really as simple as that. Someone gets a good result with Peach and everyone will start to be like, oh, Peach is actually fine. She's good. She'll at least move up to like where Ivysaur is or something. Like something like that. It's as simple as that. A lot of these can be fixed by that. A lot of these things where you go, why is this character so low? One person picks up that character and does well with them, immediate boost on the tier list and public perception. That's really all it takes. It's just that it's hard to see the before and after. Like Squirtle, if there was no Dirt Boy, would be down here for sure. With Dirt Boy, you see him at the top of B tier, but you just don't see the world without Dirt Boy, so you don't notice that. You just see where Squirtle is, and you just say, oh, okay. But I think that's one of the things with Peach. So it's a couple things. A lot of matchups that are tougher for her in this game that are not in Melee, and also just no one playing her. So it's a little bit of both. Now we're down to the bottom 3. One of them being Samus, who has moved down the list. Just, once again, a lack of representation other than Morse code. I think Samus is actually better than this, in my opinion. I think Samus can be a lot better, just a lot of lack of representation. But I think there's a lot of characters who, like, I think a lot of people don't want to play Samus. I think Puff also falls into this too. There's a lot of people who would say they're bad, but as soon as they got to run into one in bracket, they're like, oh no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to play Samus. I don't want to play against Puff. This is going to be hard. And I think that says a lot, right? I think that says a lot about what we think about Samus and Puff, and also the game in general. I think that really shows just where the game is, where, you know, to reiterate what I said at the beginning, as much as I might be exaggerating in some cases about a character being really good or really bad, every character is good enough to compete, really. And I think that goes true for both of them, because like I said, a lot of people just do not want to play those two characters at all. Like, they do not want to play a good Samus, they do not want to play a good Puff. It's scary. And I think that's perfect. That's exactly what you want out of your low tiers. But they're totally fine. Samus is one of them, still very good. You know, you obviously lose like the wall grab from your Z tether, like you have in Melee, for example. So the recovery is a pretty good amount worse. But you know, it's Samus, right? At the end of the day, it's Samus. She even has Ice mode. Everyone loves Ice Samus. Ice Samus is great. But really, it's just, you know, Samus is still just a solidly fundamental character. You have the jab cancels that Morse code shows off, as well as the crawling stuff with the little ball that can be very tricky to play around. But otherwise, she's just Samus. You know, she does Samus things, and it's a pretty solid game plan. And there's, you know, she plays the game of attrition really well. And yeah, I think you know, I think she's mostly fine. And I think once again, it will be, if someone other than Morse can do something, I think that will definitely make a difference. But I still, you know, there's a little too much going against her. That sometimes, you know, that game of attrition that I mentioned, she's good at it, but a lot of characters will beat her in that game of attrition in this game, and I can go and really go out and mess with her and edge guard her pretty well, comparatively to Melee. Stuff like that can make things tricky for her, and I think that on top of the lack of representation is really what's doing it. But Luigi is here, and Luigi has a top 5 player in the game. Luigi's been considered pretty much really bad for a while now in the game, and that opinion has really not changed. Most people just think Flarp is very, very good, and they don't have a problem with that. And I personally don't either. I think that's pretty reasonable. But yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, I think Luigi is pretty solid, right? I think he's pretty good, but unfortunately, there's a lot of matchups he's going to struggle with. He also kind of struggles with those big disjoints that can wall him out, that edge guard him really well, because his recovery is still not great. But I mean, if he can get a charge of misfire and just nail you with it, it's over. Like, he's gonna get kills off that like crazy. And he still has the same stuff in Melee. He's got a good wave dash length that can make burst approaches pretty good. If you're gonna have trouble with that, you're gonna struggle against Luigi. His recovery, while linear, it gets him back to the stage a lot. So you got to be consistent at edge guarding him, or else he can live for a long time. And he's got good combo breakers because he's still super floaty, still pretty hard to combo, and the reversals are still very much there. Just not enough to really push him over the edge. Nothing other than the charging of the misfire, which he mostly ends up using for recovery. Nothing special enough to really get him up there. And you know, like I said, the relying on wave dashing for the approaches is pretty tough in a game with a lot of fast characters who can really just play the whiff punish game with you. Can be pretty tough. And lastly is Puff, who, even though Michael has bumped himself into the top 50 and pretty high up in it at that, still just not considered very good. Just the game just doesn't work for Puff as well as it does in Melee. The game is not dominated by the spacies that she can rely on getting a grab and killing them at any percent. She has to get the edge guards more often, and there's a lot of characters that just don't really care about being edge guarded. They just really don't get edge guarded. So Puff has to work a lot harder to get those edge guards and to get those rest setups, because they don't come very easily. A lot of her rests in Melee come from throw and tech chase rests, or they come from edge guarding. And when when a lot of floatier characters dominate the roster, who don't have to tech platforms as often against you, and they have better recoveries, it's going to be harder to get those kinds of rests. So she relies on playing more of the battle of attrition, and when there's a lot of these multiple jump characters who can go up and fight her in those instances, it's going to be tough. So Puff really hasn't been changed much from Melee. There's been a lot of talk about maybe giving her a little bit extra than what she has in Melee, right? Giving her some more tools to deal with some things. But she really hasn't gotten much of that, so she is where she is. She still has some solid matchups here and there, but there's a lot now that she has to deal with that I think makes the game a lot harder if she doesn't get an ideal bracket. Which I think is where the low tiers come in, is like they can do really well if they get the ideal bracket, but if they run into some tough matchups, it's going to be very, very hard, whereas the higher you go, the less that matters. I think that's a big deal. And I think Puff kind of one of the characters that relies a lot on getting a favorable bracket where you can get those things and you don't have to worry about the about edgeguarding these tough to edgeguard characters and trying to find rests out of nowhere on characters that you don't really have a rest set up on because of their weight and stuff that doesn't really exist in Melee. But yeah, that's the current tier list and pretty much my thoughts on every single character's spot on it going down. I think it's pretty good. I think there's some stuff that's I would definitely mess with, and that's why the next thing we're going to do is look at my list here. So this is the list that I made just now. I took my numbered list, I put it in order, and then I separated the tiers into what I think the separation points would be. You can see a lot of stuff is relatively the same. I have Snake and Game Watch around the same spot. Same with like Ivysaur. I have Falco a little lower, kind of in the middle area. I actually have Mewtwo a little lower, but like I said, I think that's I would definitely be fine moving him up the list at any point. I don't really see him going farther down than that. I kind of lowballed him for sure. Same with Zero Suit. I think I've lowballed Zero Suit, and she could move up more than anything. I don't think she's really going to move down from that point. But you can also see what I did with the bottom tiers. I pretty much took all the bottom tiers plus Squirtle. And made them at a big tier to really show that, like, I don't think they're so much worse than everybody that they need like 3 separate tiers to show the dog shit characters, the super dog shit characters, and like the super duper dog shit characters. I think it's really just like these are kind of on the lower end, and I'm kind of lowballing Squirtle for that kind of idea I gave with Dirt Boy. Is like without Dirt Boy, I think this character would be kind of way lower on people's lists, so I'm kind of doing an in between there. And I also kind of lowball Pikachu as well, and Yoshi with that. I think Yoshi. I think Yoshi can definitely be figured out. I think they're just a little bit brain dead in terms of their game plan overall, but I think they can be figured out, so I have them lowballed a little bit, but I also think that's probably as low as I would ever put them. I don't think they can be much lower than that. But top 2, I have about the same. You have Meta Knight and Lucario as my top 2. I flipped the order, but I really don't think it's very close. Like I said, a numbered list is a little silly, so that's why I put it top 2. I don't really think one is inarguably better than the other. I think there's an argument for both, really. After that whole tier, that's separated into 2 tiers on the main list, but I put it kind of into 1 tier and then put a breakpoint a little earlier. I did end up putting Ike into that upper tier as kind of my breakpoint, with Marth being that start of the next tier, and you can finagle that a little bit if you want, but in general, I kind of grouped everything a little closer together, reduced the tier numbers, and tried to have my breakpoints be a little smoother. But generally not too much different for the most part. The biggest differences are kind of towards the middle, where things can get a little muddy. I do kind of rate Rob pretty highly compared to the other list. I put him up there with DK, right? Kind of in between DK and Knuckles is where I have him, close to almost Marth level good. And I do put Lucas pretty high. I do regard Lucas pretty highly as well. You see them up there too. And same with Ivysaur. I have Ivysaur a lot higher than the other list. Yeah, that should be it. That is everything here. I'll leave this up for another little bit while I talk so that you can take a look at it. But otherwise, thank you guys for watching. Good to talk about PM again on the channel. And let me know what you guys want in the future, and we can do more discussions and things like that. But otherwise, take care.